Alright guys, Automatic Garage back today on a beautiful Saturday out here in the shop, and I need to be working on remodeling a bathroom in the house, but instead almost every vehicle that we own has got something wrong with it right now. So Lee's truck is running rough. I put up a little short Patreon video the other day of him putting the injector harness on it, and we did have some plugs that were burnt, nothing extreme, but I kind of figured that's what it was. We had checked fuel pressure already. He drove the truck another day, is back again. So what it is, you can crank the truck up, it will idle smooth as all get out. You can buzz the injectors, they all buzz fine. Do a contribution test sitting here while it's idling fine, all that's good. Go drive the truck. Within a minute or two of driving it, it goes into feeling like it's low fuel pressure, and definitely feeling like you've just dropped a cylinder out, at least one if not two cylinders out of it while you're driving it. I mean, it would barely come up the driveway here. I almost had to put it in low gear to pull the hill. So I'm getting a code that I have never got on these. It's more of a code that you typically find on an OBS truck because it's more of a common problem with that. So the other thing that's odd about this, along with this code that I'm going to show you here in just a second, is if you try to do a contribution test while it's in the running rough mode. So once you get it running rough, it stays running rough till you turn the truck off and crank it back up. So if you try to do a contribution test or a cylinder contribution test while it's running rough, it says test failed, unknown error. If you try to do the same key on engine running test while it's in the running rough mode, it says test failed also. So we have a communication issue with something. As long as it's running smooth like it normally does, you can do those tests just fine. The other odd thing is with the contribution test, when it is running smooth, I keep getting random injectors that it says contribution fault. I think the first time was 2 and 8, the next time was 1 and 3. And I'm gonna turn around here and show you what I got on the current one. So first off, I know this truck does not have any bad injectors, because when it's running right, it runs way too good to have any kind of failing, getting weak injectors. So there's the code that I don't ever see. Injector driver module codes detected, a P1316. And then these are the current injectors. Like I said earlier, I had 1 and 3, and then I had 3 and 8, I think was the next time, and then now I got 2, 4, and 8. So it just keeps jumping around everywhere. And I'll show you right now. We can do key on. We can go to special function, and we can buzz the injectors. And they all buzz strong. And what you probably didn't pick up was it say there, injector multiple faults, bank 2. And now it says injector 6 also along with that. So what you probably couldn't hear since you're inside the truck, and you may not even hear it on camera at all, but when it starts to do the buzz test and it buzzes all of them at one time, you hear a little bit of an oscillation. It's not just a smooth buzz buzzing them all. I've never heard one do that either. So I heard that the other day, but doing the injector harness, I was like, well, it must just be something to do with the injector harness, because we did see some melted plugs, and like I said, nothing extreme, but I thought maybe it was just enough to make it sound weird. So now I'm really leaning towards this code right here, the injector driver module code. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull another IDM out of another Super Duty we have here, swap it in here and go drive the truck, and I bet all these are going to disappear and everything's going to be fine, which just seems really odd to me. This is a typical thing on an OBS, like I mentioned, because they typically had water intrusion or moisture getting in them and causing the problem with those. So I don't know, Lee does pressure wash this truck a lot. I don't know if maybe he somehow got some moisture in it and caused the problem, but we'll see. I'm gonna see if I can get it to run rough here for y'all so you can see what it sounds like before we swap these IDMs on. I swear, I just turned the camera on and it just went back to running normal. Let me see if I can make it do it again. There it is. Well, you can see my computer shaking there. It's not as bad as it was. You hear it smooth right back out. And as I mentioned, we have checked fuel pressure. The lowest it goes to is about 50 when you do a real hard pull with it running right. It's about 50. And it doesn't, of course, it doesn't even drop that low when it's running bags. It's not pulling that much fuel pressure at the time, or requiring that much. So let me swap some IDMs out and see what we come up with. All right, so I'm gonna show y'all pulling Lee's IDM out because we're in the shop. The other truck is a non-running truck that's outside, and I'm not gonna have fun doing that to begin with in the gravel, in the grass. So you got 7/32 right here around the fender well, and you got two 8mm up front, of course. And what else we got? We got 8mm right there. You got your two. He's only got, no, he does have two. You got these two Christmas trees right here. And you got your ABS line, which actually he doesn't have ABS. This is an XL truck. So we still got to pop that off though because it's connected to the fender. We can get this out, and then the IDM is in this general location right here. Get better impact. He's got all his stuff still stuck to the fender. But most of it already been pushed off because people have taken those and never been took up. There's no fun way or easy way to do this. That's where your IDM is. You got a 10mm just like your engine harness up there on the motor to get the plug out. And then it has been a little while. I think there's just two 10mm right there. I'm trying to decide how I want to do this. I could just not mount the other one in here and undo nothing but the plug right now. Maybe I should try that. So we'll just undo the 10mm right now. And there's your plug for your IDM. Which everything, well, looks like there could be a little bit of corrosion in one of those. Need to spray it. Looks like there's corrosion in all of them. Oh, y'all probably can't see that, but you look down. Here, zoom in, babe. If you look down in those holes, we're just gonna take some dielectric grease and spray it out. I think there's actually something better than this product. It kind of eats the corrosion up, but I do not have it here. And I sprayed it up on the IDM also. Now we're going to put some dielectric grease on it, plug it back in. We'll go drive it again, see if we can duplicate the problem or not. What that looks like, this looks like clean metal in there now. So let's hope that fixes the problem. Just kind of smearing it in all the holes that actually have, not all these are electrical connectors, so. It'll help keep water from getting in there too. We're going to plug it back in, tighten our bolt up. We're not going to worry about our inner fender well. And start this by hand. Make sure you don't feel like something's not, because you don't want to start bending pins up in your IDM or something. make sure it pulls it up in there normal, and then tighten it up with a hand ratchet. So we ain't even gone anywhere yet. I cranked it up, I revved it up, and that seems to be what makes it act up. And now it's idling rough again, if y'all can see that. Look at the shifter. See it shaking. So that didn't fix the problem, so we're gonna swap an IDM now. All right, so this is an IDM out of another truck out here that is not running. And it's not a factory one, it's been replaced. It's got the security seal on it, as you can see here. We just spray a little electric grease in it just to make sure it's clean and void of any moisture. So we're gonna see if we can duplicate the problem with this one just bolted up here before we actually mount it all up in the truck. And then if it runs fine sitting here, ribbing up and everything, then we'll actually mount it and go drive the truck. All right, so it still does the same thing with a different IDM. So I came out here and I unplugged the ICP sensor, and it will still do the problem, but it's not as prominent. So now I'm wondering if we have a wiring issue going to our ICP sensor. Since the problem is different with the ICP sensor unplugged, not near as prominent. Now you can still feel it, but it's not near as bad as it was. So I'm gonna pull this off. I'm gonna look at the pigtail for the ICPs, and I guess we're gonna replace it and see what happens with that. All right, so we pulled all of our, this looks like this has never been done either, even though that is not a factory ICP sensor. And I wouldn't say that the wires look terrible. All right, so like I said, it's Saturday. I'm at my wit's end. I need to be working on my truck and getting it going. So I'm out here aggravated with the Bush Latte. But I unplugged the ICP sensor, and y'all saw me replacing that pigtail just a minute ago, because the problem was not as prominent with the ICP unplugged. So it would still do it, but wouldn't run near as rough, and it was harder to make it do it. So it's almost like making the computer run on the default ICP setting that's predefined in the computer if it's unplugged and not getting a reading, makes it do it less. So that has me leaning towards, well, what's the IPR doing? So I pulled the IPR up. It's sitting at like 4% at idle, which seems pretty low to me. Usually it's more up in the 7% range with the 7.3s. So I don't know. We're gonna throw a standard ignition IPR valve in it, which I've had very good luck with. They're made in America. No, it's not Motorcraft or International, but on the 7.3s I've had good luck with them. So I've got one of those coming, and I'll be here shortly, and I'm gonna swap that out, and we're gonna see if that does it, because I was really dead set on thinking it was the IDM with that code and doing weird stuff. But that's why these 7.3s are harder to diagnose than the 6.0s or anything else, just because they're not as user friendly on diagnosing stuff. You can't do as much bi-directional stuff and pull up certain things that you can on stuff that's newer than it, especially on the OBS trucks. They're even worse than these are to diagnose. So let's try that and we'll see what happens. All right, so we're up here on top of the motor. I'm gonna try to show you. I think I just found the problem, if it will focus. There we go. So if I can get my hand in here, let's get ready to unplug the IPR. Come on, light. If you'll watch me wiggle the solenoid on it, it is extreme. The Tenderman nut's still tight. I mean, that is extremely loose. I noticed that while I was getting ready to unplug it, just like that. And look at that. The rubber's all melted out of that too. So we're gonna swap this thing out, and I really feel like we just found the problem now. So we got the solenoid portion out. And yes, they do on occasion wiggle inside of the outer portion, but if you look, I gotta try to set my phone down. It's got a lot of play in it. I'm gonna show you the new one real quick. I mean, we have zero play here. I mean, this is a wear part. We can't really complain about this, so it is what it is. So your Tenderman nut is, what was it? It's a 3/4. So I use a 3/4 3/8 to get the tenderman nut off. And then the actual IPR is, was that, I think it's 1 1/8". Yeah, it's 1 1/8". And what I've had to do with that 1 1/8 socket to make it work for this, you probably can't tell, but I've rounded out the portion further down, not where the ratchet goes in, but further down, so that the IPR itself will fit up in there, because it's almost too deep. There is a special socket for this, but I've just made this one work over the years. This is probably just as much or more of a significant problem. That is all melted up in there. We have a broke wire right here, and they really look like, I don't know. I gotta open this harness up more. It almost looks like this has been messed with before, maybe. So I think we need to put a new pigtail on here for the IPR also. All right, so this is why when you replace an injector harness on a 7.3, you never throw these away, all your injector connectors, because these fit 6.0 IPRs, they fit this IPR, they fit so many other connectors on these trucks. So it's the same connector, and I have a drawer full of these. Of course, I only keep them if they're good, if they're not melted or messed up, and as you can see, this one's in good shape. So we're just gonna open this up and cut back to where the wires look nice and fresh, and splice that in, heat shrink it, and wrap this harness up nice and neat, plug it in, and I really feel like this is gonna fix the problem here now. So, I literally just set y'all down, and I just pulled this harness back, and look at that, that's bare wire right there. And they're broke apart right there also. So, yeah, let me get back in here and we'll fix this up. All right, new pigtail, soldered on, heat shrinked. I'm gonna get it back in the loom and probably wrap it up just a little ways. And then we'll be ready to put it back down on there and try this thing out. All right, new pigtail on, plugged in, wrapped up. I just gotta put the wastegate controller back on here, because I unbolt that. It gives you room to do your ratchet right here while you're taking the IPR out, and then we'll crank this up. Taking that IPR out's messy unless you pump all the oil out of your reservoir. So just take you some brake clean and clean up your mess. So much to my dismay, still doing the same thing, but I got up here with it running, started poking and prodding around on the wiring harness. Let me unplug this fan so y'all be able to hear me. And I felt like whenever I would pull on the main harness right here, I could make it kind of skip and change its beat when it was running rough. So I think I was moving this just enough, and I just noticed this a second ago. Let me get you down here. You notice these wires, this green one's rubbed all the way through. You can see the wire there. I think that one's starting to rub through, and it's been riding right there on the valve cover. There's just a little bit of bare metal there, so I guess at times it's finding a ground, especially when the truck's running with vibration, which would explain why it would let me buzz test it and everything else supposedly. So I'm gonna leave that undone. I'm gonna put the charge air pipe back on it so I can really riv it up, because it's not riving like it ought to right now because it doesn't have boost, of course. So let me do that. If the problem's resolved, I'm gonna say that's what it is there. I even uncovered my IPR wiring that I did and all that. The oil temp sensor right here, wires are messed up, so I gotta address that also. I think I have another old harness I could steal a plug off of and rewire that also. Let me put this pipe on and see if that's it or not. I'm tired of working on this, because I need to be working on my truck also. So, start doing it. And before I could make it do it, whenever I would sit here and so the only code we have now is engine oil temperature, because I have it unplugged. That's those two bare wires I was showing you. So I'm gonna fix that plug. I'm gonna fix those bare wires that were coming in contact with the valve cover. Get all that put back together, get the harness wrapped up before I put anything else together. Try it again. Make sure we're not setting any codes for anything else other than the intake air heater, because that's disconnected and deleted. So let me do that. We'll see where we're at then. All right, so I repaired the green wire that was rubbed through, put some more electrical wrap around it and then wrapped it up with some test tape. And we're good to go on that. So I'm gonna plug all this up. We also did the wiring up here. Got our IPR all wrapped up neatly. I went on and deleted the fuel bowl heater plug because I always leave those unplugged. They'll just cause a problem. You don't really have to have it anyways. And we fixed our oil temp sensor here. I did not have another one to put on it. So I cut it, heat shrinked it, spliced it together, and then heat shrink that. And that'll have to work for now. And the ICP is wrapped up to there. So now we'll plug all this up, double check it again, put everything together, and then we'll go drive it. All right, we're all together now. We're not throwing any codes. Let's take her for a rip, see what she does. All right, so I took her on a rip. I forgot this has got the anti-theft device, so I can't exactly film real easy while I'm driving, but she's running good. Back to normal. So I hope you enjoyed the video on getting Lee's truck back and going. He's out of town, and I'm sure he will be glad when he gets back that it's all back and running, right? So what are dads for? Helping them out, right? So anyways, kind of a hodgepodge. Nothing that we messed with was nothing that we really shouldn't have messed with, except for the IDM. And but I had that IDM code, and it kind of made sense at the time. Not a big deal to check it. Like I said, I have one on hand to try that out. The IPR wiring needed to be addressed, so we went on to replace the IPR because it was wiggling around. The wires were goofed up on that. We had the wiring harness coming over the valve cover that we fixed. We had the wiring harness, or the pigtail going to the oil temp. Anyways, just a lot of stuff that needed to be looked at and doctored on a little bit to get this back and right. So go check out our other content on the channel here. A whole lot of Powerstroke stuff. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, if this channel has helped you out, help save some money, help you diagnose something, fix it yourself, or you just want to help support content like this, go check out our Patreon if you would. We got some behind the scenes stuff, and we do some giveaways on there at times. So anyways, it's Automatic Garage signing out. We appreciate y'all watching, and we'll holler at you later.